Recording. Okay, welcome to Worldwide Jain Virtual Classroom. This is session number 23. We are discussing management of stress. In the management of stress, we discussed various stages such as containing stress, then reducing the intensity of stress, and working on a root cause, and then finally eradicating all the other symptoms of stress. These are the different stages of managing stress. We have already spoken about how to contain stress through different lifestyle and attitude related by resolving lifestyle and attitude related issues. And then now we are in the stage of reducing intensity of stress. And now we started discussing how we can reduce the intensity of stress in various ways. And one of the things we had conversation last time is one of the practices, one of the practice that brings a lot of stress is basically wrong selection of uh, idols and ideals in our life. Idols, who we follow. Now, who we follow could be in two ways. Either we believe them as superior to us in terms of controlling us, controlling ourselves, controlling nature. So we kind of bow them because we believe that they're far more powerful than us. Or it could be something we see them as a role model or ideal, and we try to follow them, or we try to accept their values, or we try to follow their message in life. Now, in either of these two cases, if the person who we select as a role model has wrong values in life, then ultimately we will have wrong values in life, and that will bring a lot of stress and anxiety in life. Uh, so last time we were discussing, previous time we discussed, okay, in spiritual world or in terms of stress management, so some of these so-called gods have weapons. They have intense anger. They have intense possessions, intense amount of possessions and greed, and they spread all type of wrong messages in the society. You may be aware of example of a story of some certain gods where god gets so angry that he takes away head of a small kid, and he kills the small kid. And then he goes on to replace that, making him alive, according to the story, making him alive by replacing the head of a boy with animal head, again killing the animal for it. So, I mean, what kind of, if a normal human being were to do this, he would be termed as a criminal, and sent to jail. So, what type of behavior are, these stories and these personalities are sending? And then also there are stories about God where God was asking for sacrifice of someone's son, and then, when that person tried to sacrifice a son, he sees a goat in front of him killed and stuff like that. What kind of these type of behavior? I can tell you that even most vegetarians find it very difficult to see animals slaughtered in front of their eyes. Even most non-vegetarians, they would eat non-veg, but they can't really see someone being slaughtered. Or if they were to visit slaughterhouse, they would stop eating non-veg right away. Now, if we are that sensitive as a human being, what kind of God is this? Who's asking first for the sacrifice of your son, and then later sacrifices goat and saves your son. So all these type of so-called gods send propagate basically unethical, violent, immoral behavior in society, and that when people follow those messages, to slaughter animals, to slaughter other people, and then ultimately we end up in all sorts of wrong values, and that leads individual, and not just the individual and the society, into a lot of stress. So it's just unbelievable how people not question these type of behavior. It's not even suited for a simple human being, and they accept people as their role model or someone who they bow down to for various reasons.
Even within Jain stories, there's Like I'm just thinking about Ram and Krishna and Ravan and those war stories. There's lots of stories like that even within Jain literature, you know?
Yeah, yeah. No, there definitely are. But think about this. So all in Jain philosophy, right? No one is perfect from the beginning, right? God is nothing, some supernatural out of the world substance. God is, I mean, what according to Jain philosophy, God is basically the most purified state of consciousness, right? So, and we all know that whoever have become achieved that state, were in a worldly state with all the passions and everything filled in them, right? And when we term someone as a god, as Jains, right, we don't bow down to the worldly state, right? And even those people who achieved that state, they realized that what they were doing in their worldly state was a mistake. That's why they made that self improvement and then went on to the right path and gave up all the passions and mithyatva and kashayas and wrong beliefs in life. And that's how they became perfect beings. And that's the state when they became perfect. That's the state we look forward to, look up to, not the state where they were in the past. I mean, if you think about it, President Obama or President Bush, I know one of them. I mean, either one of them had made error of judgment when they were teenagers. I think driving under the influence, or had taste of basically we call drugs, a little bit of drugs, uh, and So I mean, what we know is president. What we call president is not his teenager state. We respect him as a president after he became president, and we evaluate him on those values. Similarly, I mean, yeah, he made a mistake and he admits it now, right? That was his past. Similarly, any living being, when they're in worldly state, makes all sorts of mistakes. But that's not the state we are going to look up to. We're going to only look up to the state that is perfect, that is free from all the different sorrows and passions and kashayas. Because that's how we want to become. We want to become stress free. And so selection of different gods and these idols and ideals plays a huge role in this direction. And this is quite a controversial topic, but people just hardly think about it. But unless and until we really come down to it, it's just impossible to eradicate different sorts of behavior from our life. And think about this: a lot of these gods also have ornaments, and I just can't imagine, what kind of things they have. It's a variety of things. It's unbelievable how, at what level these people can go to. We find that a lot of people, these people pray to them so that they can get their desires fulfilled, or pray out of a fear that if they don't pray, then someone will punish them. And we see, even after praying so hard or offering so many sacrifices, we see so many people whose desires remain unfulfilled, right? So what kind of God is this that who doesn't even take care of their subordinates? And frankly, and there is no substance like this. It's just the imaginary substance that a human being has created for their convenience to scare other people and to get away from responsibility. When we do something wrong, God has made me do it, type of thing. So there is no substance like controlling God. And think about this. A lot of these gods, people say God has created the world and then they would operate, and then one day, out of anger, they would destroy the entire world. Why would he create one? Why would one God create something and the other God would destroy it, right? If we destroy someone's property, even without asking someone, we would be sent to jail, right? So here, he is destroying everything without anyone's permission, without thinking that so many living beings would die and stuff like that. So what kind of talk is this? It's just all senseless talk. Nothing. It doesn't have any substance or reasoning in it. And so we we need to be very careful. We need to ask ourselves that a person who we believe into as God or as our someone who we look up to or a role model, does he or she has a right value? Right values, are those values worth acquiring? Are those principles that they follow, are they logical? Do they make sense? What consequences would they have in society if we follow them? Does it benefit us and everyone in society? These type of thinking we actually need to give to, basically. So very important to think through this concept. Now, let's talk about last time. We also then discussed all sorts of difference between consideration of God from Jain point of view. There are different point of views, Digambar and Shwetambar point of view, and they're also both completely conflicting to each other, right? So we also have to figure out what's the right state. And then we came to conclusion last time that if you there are certain things about attaining moksha in travak avastha, attaining moksha by having eyes open and having possessions, simply not possible. That's not the ultimate state which we want to achieve. So even that is also a kashaya, basically form of kashaya, and not the right representation of the proper selection of role model. So ultimately, it's a vitraga avastha. It's a state of equanimity which we are looking up to, and that's what we want to achieve, and that's what we need to identify and select as a proper state of role model or God for us from a spiritual point of view. Any questions until this point? Let me quickly call Saurabh here. I can't reach it. Not call is not going through. Fully you show up. Okay. So next, does it make sense? Does this topic make sense? It's a bit controversial topic, and a lot of people find it very hard to discuss because they have been grown up with certain beliefs of their own, apart from society or family. And when we find these beliefs being challenged, it gets very difficult. But does this make sense? Are there any doubts? If you missed, watch last time's recording. We discussed a lot of the points in so much detail, in actually so much detail. If you missed last time, I would highly encourage that you watch the recording. A lot of the points that were discussed were in extreme details. That would make your understanding very, very clear. Okay, so next we are going to move on to a different topic now. How do you reduce the intensity of stress? So we know that in the presence of mithyatva or wrong belief, we have all sorts of passions or kashayas. And when we have all sorts of passions and kashayas, we basically cannot become free from stress. We cannot become free from stress. So what do we do? So first thing we need to do is we need to start eradicating a wrong belief or mithyatva. Now, how do you do that? So the way we do that is we have to acquire the right understanding of ourselves, who we are, what sort of things really affect me, what really can't affect me, what is my misery and pleasure dependent upon, what's the right path, what is my interaction with nature. All these things we need to kind of get right understanding to. These are more of philosophical causes. The real reasons are the philosophical reasons for stress. Once we start understanding it, as we start understanding it and then start contemplate in our life, we tend to understand more and more that yes, this is where I'm making mistake. And as our belief at an intellectual level first changes, right? It doesn't change at an experience level right away, but it first changes at an intellectual level. We realize that okay, yeah, what we believed earlier was wrong. This is the right thing, so we shouldn't be thinking this way or that way. So that type of conscious decision level, first it changes at that level. When that happens, a lot of these stress comes down in intensity automatically. You don't really have to do anything special. It's just learning the right principle in nature, and then just having a right decision at an intellectual level. That just stops a lot of the wrong thinking. Let me let's take a couple of examples how that happens. Suppose I'm staying under too much anxiety that I have to do this, I have to do that. I have just overloaded myself with so much stuff, and I just cannot. I don't have a full grasp of everything. I can't completely finish everything, so I'm kind of under anxiety. Okay, that hey, I have to finish that, I have to finish this, and I have too many things at hand, and I just can't handle it. In this state, when first, we realize that first we should have a good lifestyle and we should have good planning in life that will help us sort of contain stress. But apart from it, now when you think that, after planning, if you realize it, a lot of as a consciousness, we as a consciousness does not have any role to play in terms of transformation of external objects. External objects and situations change by itself, right? And they change in its own sequence. There is a principle in Jainism called principle of sequential states, Brahmapariyaya. What it tells us, everything in nature will occur at its own time, at whatever is going to happen will happen at its own time in the presence of right external factors and with the right method. So what this covers is it basically covers the substance in which the activity will take place, when it will take place, how it will take place, by what method, means what purusharth or what self effort will take for that from that substance, and then what external circumstances conducive would be to that change would be present, and then what would be the end result. All these five factors are basically combined. So when people think of these concepts, a lot of times people only take time domain of it and think that okay, whatever is going to happen will happen, and they become kind of uh, they cultivate this sense of utility that okay, yeah, if it's going to happen, it's going to happen. Why do I have to worry? And then they kind of develop the sense of carelessness rather than having a sense of equanimity. Now, this is one-dimensional view, and that doesn't bring that sense of equanimity. What it brings is when you have a right understanding that yes, everything happens by when all the factors come together, everything happens by itself, and that includes effort from a substance, right? Uh, so when that happens, things automatically take place, and I don't really need to worry. That brings the sense of equanimity. So in terms of earning money, we know that whatever activity we do in our profession is just the instrumental cause. It's not the real cause of earning money, because money is an external substance. So and it won't come if it's not going to come. But yes, our process that we follow, our profession, practicing a profession, can be an instrumental cause in earning money. So yeah, we just do that, right? And we are doing that. But we, if we have a right understanding of this principle, then we won't unnecessarily tie ourselves with the expectation that this has to happen. Since I'm doing this much money has to come, and if it doesn't come, then I get frustrated. So it doesn't tie us down with that sense of ownership or controllership, basically, and relieves us from that. So it helps us relieve the anxiety. Then once you plan out in your head, things happen automatically, right? You're just a knower of it. So it kind of relieves you from sense of anxiety. When we are going through a lot of unethical or immoral or violent behavior, we can realize that okay, what does this behavior do? They are kashayas, basically. They are a form of kashayas, and they ultimately bring us a lot of displeasure, and they also bring a lot of unhappiness for other living beings as well. When we rather sense of equanimity is the real sense of pleasure and sense of peace in us, right? And we know that sense of equanimity is quite independent. It doesn't really it's not really dependent on external substance. So when we do these type of thinking, it automatically brings our level of kashas down. And when the level of kashas come down, the stress automatically goes down. You don't really have to do anything separate. So ultimately, it's cultivating this type of thinking in every moment of our life. Suppose we are thinking about earning too much money. Yeah, I mean, we're going to plan to earn money because we have desire and we have needs in our life, right? But at that time, if you think that okay, yeah, I mean, as long as I earn that is my good enough for my need to sustain my life, I think I'll be happy because what is that? Desire to earn unlimited amount of money is what? Unlimited greed. And ultimately, what does it bring? It brings stress, which is not what I'm looking for in life. So when we cultivate these type of thinking, yeah, our activity to earn may continue, but we may not feel as much stress from those activities because of our wrong thinking. So this type of thing, cultivating different, you take any principle from Jainism, whether it's six substance, whether it's kashayas, whether it's about true nature of consciousness, whether it's krambad paryay, whether it's a selection of right Devguru Shastra, which is right idols and role models. When any of these principles, you can start the right thinking and apply it in any scenario in life. And that will instantly, when you think about it, your stress level will instantly go down because the passions or kashas will go down. And this can work for many reasons. You can reflect on the mistakes made in the past, and that kind of sort of relieves us from a lot of the issues. Like a lot of times, what happens is we had a bad experience with someone, and we form a grudges for that person, right? We hold an opinion that such and such is like this, and I have nothing to do with that person or whatever. We have so much sense of anger, and then we forget about that incident and that person. And but that sense of, as long as we have that opinion or the grudges, that sense of kashaya carries over. The feeling of kashaya carries over, and the stress on a subconscious level has built up. When we kind of consciously think through these events and introspect on ourselves, and we correct our decision making, our knowledge, it automatically relieves us from this kashayas that have been staying in the background. And because of this kashayas, sometimes we subconsciously feel so much anxiety. We cannot even concentrate on a task at hand. Suddenly. And does that happen sometimes? Our mind is bogged down into so many different things in the background that you just can't feel that at comfort, and you can't really focus on our activities every day. Does that happen? Do you ever experience that? I mean, I'll give you one example. Lately I was involved in uh, learning some new task. So I was just so much uh, involved in that mentally. That while I was doing some other activities, my mind kept going back to it because I was just so much attached to that activity that my mind just kept going back to it, even though I wasn't really trying it consciously. It just happened that my mind subconsciously kept going back to that activity. So a similar thing happens, when we have uh, opinions subconsciously built up that does similar things. That kind of like think of this concept of computer RAM. That when RAM overflows, then what happens? You kind of have to reboot your computer, right? There is only limited amount of RAM. So in our worldly state, we have a limited amount of RAM in which we can carry limited things. And when we have too much anxiety, it just cannot take it. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Any questions? You want to take any situations which you? I mean, I would encourage maybe more we talk about situations. Better it would be in terms of help us how to deal with that situation from using various principles. I would suggest at this point we should take different situations. Anyone want to talk about any situation, particular situation in life? Nishit, do you want to talk about, or Ketan?
And just like things you describe, it's just a common everyday occurrence almost, you know. A lot of times when I'm at work thinking about a sick baby and I'm having a difficult time figuring out what the diagnosis is and going through different things in my head, I may be doing a different activity, but I'm pulled back into that thought process again and again. What if I tried this? Or,
Yeah,
you know, thinking about other different options. Uh, it, it's part of everyday
yeah,
occurrence.
hmm, that's true. And
So
yeah, go ahead, Nishit.
I was just gonna say, so what do you advise when, when you've spent 12 hours of 12 hours of your day at work, and you come back and you find it difficult to unwind and, you know, get over because you're coming home and you're sometimes still thinking about work. What do you would How do you suggest? How can we get away from that?
Yeah, so this is more of a problem of understanding the right priorities in life. When first of all, this happens because we have intense attachment towards our work. It's not just because you spend 12 hours at work. There is more deeper thought reasoning at a thought process level that is holding you to that behavior. Because otherwise, there are examples that I see. People spend 18 hours in certain activity, and then when they come out, they're completely out of it. There are people like that too. So it's not about just because you spend 12 hours a day, you find it hard to unwind. There are things like, first we have to have clear goals and priorities in our life. Our life, our work is to sustain our life, not the other way around. Our life is not to sustain our work. In reality, our work is to sustain our life. But a lot of times we don't think about this, and we form such an intense attachment towards our work and activities of work, and that ties directly towards earning money and making progress and having promotions in life. And that ties to another issue in our thought process. When we think, everyone wants to make progress in their life, right? Who doesn't want to make progress? But the definition of progress is a very single-mindedness, a very single dimensional in our life nowadays. We all think of only material progress. We all only think in terms of progress in terms of uh, physical material prosperity and the house and the possessions and the money we earn, how many vacations we can take, how many good things we can buy. We have such a narrow definition of progress. It obscures the other types of progress in life, because we cannot really focus on other types of progress in life. Now, what happens is we know that these progress is quite sometimes outside of our control. Second, it's only temporary progress. Right? Even if you were to earn so much money, once you leave this world, that progress is not going to carry forward. In fact, built up that much level of desire and pressures, it works in other ways, in terms of progress of consciousness. So, and, with that, if you live in so much stress, it affects your worldly health, your physical health too, right? And that basically doesn't help you in your life. So when you have this right understanding, when you think through this priorities in life, you kind of have to be aware. Look, work is to sustain me, sustain me. My life is not to sustain work. When you think of it, yes, you want to, it should be in our values to give everything 100% to our work, right? Or whatever commitment we pick up to, we want to give 100% to it. We don't want to compromise or give half-hearted effort. So whatever time you determine, then that should be reasonable too, right? It should be whatever you think is reasonable. It shouldn't be something that you're spending entire day at work. And, you whatever time you decide, then you give your wholehearted effort into it. Then you kind of have to step back. Look, am I really here to support my work, or am I really to make? What is my purpose of my life? Is it to really, whatever progress do I really want to make? Continuous, sustained progress that would stay with me forever and bring me instant relief, or a progress that is just a superficial in nature that people may call it progress, but I may not get anything in the end. When you think about that, your attachment to that activity will instantly go down. Your attention then will free up to think about other things in life. Then, as you form about other priorities in life, there are other priorities, right? We talked about dharma, arth, kam, moksha. Dharma or earth or calm moksha. So earth and calm is basically earning money, and calm is basically spending time with family, taking care of our fulfilling our needs and stuff like that. Enjoying worldly pleasures with family, and so that's calm. And dharma and moksha. Dharma is basically good social charitable activities, promoting our spiritual values. It's called dharma. And then moksha is basically how you are going to achieve moksha, how you're going to get away from desire. So all these, your life should be balanced. So first thing that needs to happen in life is the right prioritization of goals, priorities, and thus our planning, our everyday time management should reflect those priorities in life. If we cannot even do that simple planning and lifestyle management, then there won't be any further progress. We will always be engrossed in certain irrelevant activities of our life. We may make one type of progress in our life, but then everything else will be unfulfilled. Does that make sense, Nishan?
Yeah.
That happens. Ideally, we should form an habit. The moment we step out of work, I mean, or moment we step out of any activity, thinking of that activity stops and live in the present. Whatever we are doing at the moment, or whatever we have decided to do at the moment, we stay with that. So as soon as you step out of work, everything at work should remain at work.
Yeah. Pradesh, Siddharth here.
Yes, that go ahead.
Similar to that in profession, the question is, when it comes to, like, say, the performance review or any kind of a raise or things like that, how should we react to that? Should we just keep calm and just take it what we get, or we should stand up and fight for it, like, hey, I'm eligible for this or that, and go against that? And sometimes we feel like, okay, I'm not satisfied here. Okay, let me go find some other work where I can better, well paid.
Yeah.
So things like that, every day it happens, right? So
yeah. And very, very fair situation, very, very valid question. So think about this. Ultimately, what we want from our life is that peace, and we want sufficient earnings in our life that can take care of our family and our needs. Right? Now, when we go to work, right, what we want to do is we want to give 100% to our work, right? So now, like, say at the time of performance review, your manager or someone tells you that, hey, uh, it would be good if you do, instead of this, if you can do this, or they give us some suggestions about improvement. If they're constructive suggestions, then first do honest self-assessment, right? We should do honest self-assessment, because in anything we do, there is always a scope for improvement in anything we do. Whether it's a spirituality, whether it's at work, it's about some other endeavor, it's a family life, anything else. So let's do honest self-assessment. That, okay, what have I done this year? How I have done this year? What could I have done differently? Is there something better I can do? How can I improve in this situation? And if those suggestions seem valid to you, that yes, they would definitely help you. They are basically reasonable, and they are going to help you go to the next level. Accept it. Say yeah, definitely. I think these are good suggestions, and I would like to improve, and I would like to make changes in myself so that I can be much better next time. And just take those suggestions. Now, as far as if you think that they are not reasonable or they are not correct, the suggestions they are giving you or things they are telling you are not correct, kind of point them out. It may be a matter of miscommunication or misperception. Then you might want to work on that. You want to tell them, look, here's what we have done. Here's what every company sets goals, right? And then you measure your performance against those goals. You kind of tell them, look, this is what our goal was. This is what we have done. Why is there a discrepancy in our perception of how we do things? And kind of, try to understand the reasoning of why they are telling you certain things. If you think they're not right, then tell them that this is why you think it's not right, and try to convince them that way. If they don't believe, and if you cannot come to a common ground, then it's just a fate that you have to accept. Either you take it or you leave it, right? It's your choice. Now, as far as earning money, that is a very subjective thing. It depends on so many different circumstances, your individual situation, your business situation, your company situation, market situation at that time. a lot of different things. And again, think about what's fair. What do you want out of your life? And tell them what's fair to you. If, whatever they're offering to you, if you think it's fair, then take it. I mean, if you think it's not fair, then you can always express your point of view. That, hey, look, this is why I think this is not fair. It would be nice to have this. If there's no guarantee that they would work on that suggestion, right? If they take that suggestion, well and good. If they don't take that suggestion, then you have only two options, right? Either be happy with what you have, or if you're not happy with what you have, then look for something else. Right? So
Yeah.
yourself to a clear thought process. Don't get bogged down anywhere. Make a flow chart of how you're going to make a decision in your life. So ultimately, if you're not happy with that decision that they've made, then you may have to, as I mentioned, you have only two choices, right? Either you be happy with that, or you look for something else. When you look for something else, there is no guarantee that everything will come. Yeah, there's nothing wrong in looking for some other work, but you also need to be mindful about all the different circumstances in life. That don't make just decision on one aspect of life. Like, for example, if you are to make a decision based on only a salary that someone is giving you in life, and when you may realize it when you go to that work, they're making you work 60 hours a week, and they're taking your weekends away from you, your vacation away from you, and plus quality of work or the workplace is not very enjoyable. And then you may not enjoy that a lot as well, or the benefits are not that great. So when you make the decision, you also need to think through completely and make a complete decision by considering all different aspects of life. And then if until you can find a better option, it's always better to stick with the current alternative, right? Whatever is in front of you. So and if you are going to stay with the current alternative, there is no point in going every day over there being in dissatisfied state. Hey, I don't get this or don't get that. Just get over it. It's leave it. Your job is only to give 100%. Now, whatever is going to happen is a fate that's beyond our control, and that let it work out its way, right? You should never compromise in your efforts, and let the rest of the thing be taken care by itself. You can try once or twice, but don't expect that this has to happen or that has to happen, because otherwise you'll end up in a state of so much discomfort and dissatisfaction, and that won't be healthy for you and your workplace. Does that make sense to that?
Yeah, that makes sense. It just like a moment. At that particular moment, it's difficult to keep the equanimity, but I think more and more we understand the priority in life, it will fade away very quickly.
It's a very common scenario everyone pretty much experiences in life, and I would say if what let me tell you one thing. When we are doing the stress management workshop, it's not that I'm expert in this field or I've followed everything in this field. I know every principle and I've implemented every single principle at 100% in my life. What this does, this discussion and having this workshop, what this gives us is an environment, and this discussion and learning of this concept constructs our thought process. So we want to be able to construct such a clear and methodical and rational thought process that it follows like a flow chart. That, hey, this happens in my life, I'm going to think this way. This happens in my life, I'm going to think this way. And when you do that, you never get bogged down into any confusion. Just like a kind of a flow chart or thought process that we talked about. That if you follow this, you will never get stuck in any of that. Maybe you will have a transitory feeling of dissatisfaction. You will never get stuck in it, and you will instantly drive yourself out of it. And that's the kind of goal we have from this workshop. We want to construct a thought process that is so methodical and rational that we can always stay away from it.
Yeah.
I would describe it as almost a dissociative process. You have to have the equanimity of mind, absolutely, and you always have to give everything your best. But then you also have to have a dissociative process. A large part of, I think, the difficulty that we often get into is that we think that we have control. We think that we have power over things that we have absolutely no power over in reality.
Yeah.
So after you have made your very best effort, then you also have to have this thought process of a dissociative mind process where you realize that this is not under my control. This is
Yeah,
not something that I truly have power over. Jim Tavanu che, Tavanu che.
no,
Purusharath we can give, we give, but then after that, we
yeah,
must have that equanimity to say, no, this is what is meant to be.
yeah. And you brought up a very, very good point. And let me give you one example. I just bring one example that I recently came across. So one of my friend actually, he he's in India and he was getting an offer from in his own company. He was getting an offer to come over here, and he had two offers, one in different city and the other one was in a different city. And what happened was, considering different aspects of those two opportunities, like what type of position he was getting, what type of location he was getting, what type of future opportunities he was getting, he made a decision to go one way. Okay, that okay, he was going to pick one. Now, what it turned out after he made a decision and he let the other project go, it turned out that that project that he decided for got canceled. And so his opportunity, he was really excited to get the new opportunity. And instead, what it turned out is, despite him thinking through his decision and making his best efforts, it turned out that he couldn't really, at this point in time, he couldn't really take the next step, and he had to be in his current role for a longer period of time, right? So now, what happens is, when he thought through everything, he actually took the best decision with the best information he had available at the time, right? And that's all you can do, right? In terms of making right decisions, that's all you could do. Now, what I realized is he was going back in time and he was thinking in hindsight that, hey, instead this, if I would have done this, it would have been better. If we were to know everything, then we would never end up in any problem, right? So rather, what Ketan described is extremely necessary. We need to have the dissociative process as well. That look, you can only do the best you can, but you're not under control of. You're not controlling all the circumstances. So it's futile to think about those things that you're controlling everything, and either I would have done this or that. Kind of think of those things. You don't need to think bad about this. So these are the type of situations which we can easily conquer by having a simple, good thought process. And that's what Jain philosophy teaches us. And that's the amazing beauty of it. In any situation of life, no matter what task we're going through, we have these principles accepted back of our mind. I think we're going to be in much better state when we face difficulties in life. Just have a practice. Take any principle in life, and you'll find something that you can relate to. Oftentimes, I would say the reason we find it very difficult to make progress in terms of our spirituality and in terms of relieving that stress, because we don't even do this simple rational thinking in our life. We just get so much engrossed into our present activities that we just keep on doing them, thinking that, yeah, that's the only way to go about it. But that's not the case. Just take a little bit of time out, contemplate on these principles about your activities, relate them to your life, and you will find it. Nothing else can work in life. No antidepressant can work. No other type of remedies can work. But this type of thought process will bring instant relief from stress, reduce the intensity level so much. Does that make sense? Anyone want to talk about any other type of situation?
Yeah, I want to talk about one situation. Say if you're in like family and then you have responsibilities from like different perspectives. You have kids and you have responsibility towards them, and then many elders are there. You have to take care of them. You have everyday home task you have to do. And how will you, like, at the end of the day, you feel like I'm just doing all my daily routine task, and I'm not even getting time to realize what I'm doing. Even not getting time for like even an hour of for swadhyay. How to deal with in that situation? Like, if even after that you do all the tasks and then everybody's blaming you, or like if your kids are not listening to you, whatever, like that.
Mm-hmm.
How will you deal in that situation then?
That's a very good question. I think again, this is a very common situation. We all face at one or other point in our time in our life. Now, let me ask you one other thing. You know our Indian team's captain, right? Mahendra Singh Dhoni.
Yep.
Have you ever seen him? How he is? I like there are two times I've seen Dhoni. One when we won 2011 World Cup.
Mm-hmm.
Even during that time, I observed him. And the other time when we consecutively lost all the Test series in England and Australia, worst time of the life in his life as a captaincy career. We all know that he's extremely and the most successful captain Indian cricket team has ever produced, right? But I've seen him in these two extreme times. And when he was on the top of the world by lifting two World Cups, like 2020 World Cup and then the other One Day World Cup last 4 years back. And then again, another time when he was in a completely worst phase of his life. In both of these, and what he has kind of done, people write all sorts of articles on him, right? Being an Indian captain, people are going to write. There are a billion people who follow you, and they're going to write everything they wish. He's kind of detached from everything. Even when he won the World Cup, he didn't really get overjoyed, and even when he lost all the series, despite trying so hard, he didn't really get overly dejected. So basically, because he experienced them very early in his life, so he realized that if he were to be successful at that level and play for a longer period of time, he has to develop the detachment from the results. And what he often keeps telling in a press conference that process is more important than the results. What he focuses on is his process. What's in his control. But often the results are not necessarily in your control because they're external things, and he worries least about it. So similarly, I'm just giving this was one example, a very good example that I wanted to bring in. But our life is no different than that. We should all are being householder. We are going to have different priorities, different responsibilities in life. We should plan out and do to the best of our ability, just like Dhoni did, played his cricket best of his ability. Now, after you do it, maybe people will give you suggestions that, hey, rather you should have done this or that way. If you find constructivity in their suggestions, if you think they're constructive suggestions, do honest introspection. And even if they're not constructive, do first introspection. Do you think you can do some improvement, you can improve? Because that's going to help you improve. After trying very best and taking everything and doing everything, now people are still blaming you or people are still praising you. Don't take it personally. That's uday of Nam Karma, Apyash Nam Karma and a Yash Nam Karma. So, you will sometimes find at work that you've done nothing significant, but still people praise you. And sometimes you find at work at home that you have tried so hard and so best, you've given everything you can, and people still blame you for no reason. So that kind of shows you that it's not only dependent upon your results. In fact, it's something independent because it's outside of your control. So don't take it too personally then, just don't get overjoyed, and if someone praises you, don't get dejected, because only thing that's in control is your efforts. So if you're doing your efforts right, then just don't worry about it, and always keep thinking about improving your efforts. And if someone gets disappointed with you, probably it's right to acknowledge them. Hey, look, I acknowledge your disappointment. I can certainly understand how you feel, and I will certainly try to do better next time. That just brings us in that state of mind to do better next time, and kind of makes person feel better too. Rather than if we become confrontational, that, oh, look, I'm not going to do what you're telling me. That just kind of hurts us because we are being kind of rigid, and it's a higher level of kashayas, and it kind of hurts other person as well. It doesn't foster a good environment in the family. So that's kind of a mindset you can take. And now, other question about not even getting time to do swadhyay. There will be times when we may not get any time, but look, we are fortunate. Suppose if you were living in time of Mahavir Swami, you had to concentrate really hard if you were sitting in Samvosana. If you miss something, you can go back and rewind and unwind, and you can play it again. Here, we are living in an age of technology where there's so many options, right? Even while you're working, you're doing cooking, you can download, you can have your pravachan or audio downloaded on your phone, audio, video, anything. You can still listen. Even while doing any other task, while you're in car with your husband or you're doing some other activities, you can listen. You can listen. I know there are sometimes not much time to do much reading. There is always a time for listening. There's more time for listening, and then there are so many options nowadays, right? Audio, video, multimedia, this and that. We have discussions. There is just no excuse. Everything is at fingertips. There are all these forums. Everything that we have is accessible through our smartphones. So you can always find ways. This is jainmedialive.com radio, 24-hour 7 radio. There are thousands of pravachans on net, on YouTube or on other websites. Thousands of books online. There's thousands of applications who will read books for you if you can. Talk to me after the class. I'll show you how to find those applications. They will read the books for you. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So there is just no excuse. You will always find a way. If there is a will, there is always a way.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And the swadhyaya doesn't mean that you are just sitting and holding a book in front of you and reading it. Yeah, that's the ideal way, if you can do that. But when you are going through every single moment in your life, related to the principles you have learned, and not get frustrated in life and being in a very positive and a happy state of mind itself is also a swadhyaya, because you're contemplating on a right principle, right? Learn little but apply more, I would say. Yeah. Don't go other way. Don't learn too much and not apply. Maybe if you learn little but apply 24 hours, I think that is a bigger achievement. Don't think that swadhyaya is basically sitting down and learning all the time. Applying is also swadhyaya. Actually, saying something?
I'm sorry?
You were about to say something?
Oh, I was just going to add on to a little bit of what you said. After you get to that stage where someone is continuing to treat you poorly, despite the fact that you're doing your best, after you've done your Purusharth, after you're doing your best, then you have to have the equanimity and have that dissociative mind, that, as I was suggesting before, where you say, who am I? I am just the knower.
Yeah.
That person cannot do anything to me. Mm-hmm. I am just the knower. Mm-hmm. That one substance cannot have an influence on another substance. I am simply the knower. That dissociative process, that detachment from that other is what gives me peace. Yeah. That's what eventually gives you that equanimity, and get to that stage of equanimity where you can dissociate yourself. But first, you have to put in the Purusharth.
Yeah, and that is the ultimate Purusharth, right? Vednan, or what we talk about, and that's what's going to bring you the ultimate equanimity or peace that Ketan was just talking about. Follow that. It should become our habit, actually, default habit that we should be doing every moment of our life. That's what it has been told to us in Samayasar, that Vedgyan, continuously do Vedgyan. And without that, nothing is possible. No matter how many fasts we do, how many penance we do, it's all futile without this right mindset, dissociative process. Okay, does that make sense? Anyone want to talk about any of the scenarios? Our time is almost up. Anything else? Did you find this useful? Yeah. I know we get only 1 hour a week, but I hope you can take this message and sort of apply it on yourself. When you apply it on yourself, and when you see the results on yourself, you get encouraged to practice it more and more. So hope you will continue with that. And so next time, if there are certain situations or concepts that you have a difficulty in understanding, we can talk about them. Or next time, then we will focus on targeting root cause of stress, about attaining Samyak Darshan, right belief. Okay, so just think about it. If there are any situations or concepts you want to talk about, we can talk about it, and then we will go into our next topic. Right? Jajinendra, everyone, thank you for joining. See you all.
One quick question: is there going to be a class next week?
I won't be able to. Actually, I won't be able to join. I may not be able to join class for next 3 weeks. I'm going to India actually. So let's see. We'll have to figure something out if Saurabh is coming or not.
And I won't be able to join class for the next 2 weeks because
Okay.
of the work commitments. So.
Okay, I mean, if that's the case, I mean, we are only 3-4 people. We may just cancel our class for next 2-3 weeks. If that's the case. What do you suggest, Caleb?
If Saurabhji was going to be here, I'd say we continue. I think.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's what I was thinking. That if Saurabh is going to be here,
Saurabhji is going to be here.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking. If Saurabh is here, then let's continue. But so I'll follow up with Saurabh and let you guys know if we have a class or not.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I would suggest one thing. At least out of you guys, at least reply that you are going to be here or not. So that if Saurabh is coming, I don't want that he makes his time to come and then no one shows up. Because I won't be here, he won't be here. I want at least if either of you guys, you Pritesh or Priyanka, Siddharth, Nishit or Pritesh, if either of you are here, then it's still a good use of time for Saurabh. Otherwise, we are wasting his time. So
Right.
okay, so just reply. I'll mention that on our group that whether Saurabh would be available or not. But reply whether you are going to come or not. That way, if no one is coming, then we can just cancel it that way. Okay. All right.
Sounds good. Thanks. Bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, listen to all recordings. Okay. I think you just catch up on the recordings if you missed it. Okay. All right. Bye.
Good.